And so as the driver is trying to get a hold of this vehicle, sometimes you go over the edge of that valley and you're just picking and you're like, you're praying to whatever God you have. And I'm telling you, students were terrified. I was terrified. I'm Cameroonian. I was born in the capital city of Yaounde, where I went to school, did my pre-nursery, nursery, and primary school. And when it came time to go to college, or what Americans refer to as high school, I wanted to go to a boarding school. And at the time, I was looking at two boarding schools. The two schools that I had in mind were Our Lady of Lourdes in Bamenda, which is in the northwest region of the country, and Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College in Fontem in the southwest region of the country. If you wanted to get into these schools, you had to go in for an interview. And so students who were interested in attending these schools or any Catholic school or probably any boarding school, you had to travel to where these schools were located and take a written exam. Catholic boarding schools at the time, when they were offering interviews, all of the boarding schools offered interviews on the same day. I don't know if they still do it right now, but that's how it was. And at the time, I couldn't go to one school, write the exam, and then travel over 6 hours to get to the next location to write the exam. I couldn't make it. And so I had to decide where I wanted to go to. And so I picked Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College to go write the entry exam. And I decided to go there, go write the exam. And honestly, I had no backup plan. It was Our Lady Seat of Wisdom or nothing. So I studied my very best and I did my very best at the first school leaving certificate, which is an exam that you take after finishing primary school. So I did my very best to make sure that I was able to enter the college, and then thankfully I was able to get in. So I was accepted to Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College, and I was excited to be a student. As soon as I came back from that interview, I actually began getting my things ready. The interview itself, it happened in the early summer, and so students had ample time to get their things ready, whatever they needed for school, for the boarding side of school. They gave you enough time to get that put together because the school semester or the school year started in the month of September, so you had quite a lot of time. So I was getting excited, getting my stuff together, and really pumped that I was going to Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College. So the summer flew by, and the month of September arrived when it was time to head to school. I was excited. It was my first time leaving home to go to a faraway location where I wouldn't get to see my parents as often as I used to. I was crying, I was bawling. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss you. But it was all okay. So when it came time to travel, I traveled with a good number of students from Seat of Wisdom as well. So we loaded up the bus and took off from Yaounde. We were going from Yaounde to Dschang, which was about 6 or 7 hours. And then from Dschang, we switched cars and then drove down to Fontem, which was about 2 to 3 hours. The drive from Yaounde to Dschang was very smooth. It was done overnight, so most of the time we were sleeping. I really did not pay much attention. It was smooth. The roads were smooth. No mechanical issues on the road. Nothing. It was just perfect. It was just right. And honestly, I thought this was this was about to be a similar experience when going down to Fontem, but when we arrived Dschang, a whole different reality awaited us. So we got to Dschang. It was in the early morning, and so okay, we traveled with the 70-seater. It got to the park in Dschang. It parked. We went down. We're like, oh yeah, I'm going down to Fontem. I'm a brand new student. Yada yada yada. All that excitement is still there. And then when it's time to switch cars, typically when you go down to Fontem, you take a 35-seater bus, and they're just a miniature size of the 70-seater. But I started to see that our bags were being transferred into a pickup truck. I was like, hold on a minute. So I see that they're transferring our bags from the 70-seater bus into a pickup truck instead of a 35-seater vehicle. And very soon we realized that the people that are in charge of driving us down to school, they said the roads are very bad and using a 35-seater bus will not get you to your location. So we have to take a 4-wheel vehicle, a pickup truck, to get you to your location. And I was like, what? So this is where I give you a background of the Dschang to Fontem road if you're not familiar with it. So this road is an untarred road. It's not a gravel road. Nothing has been put down. It's just soil, right? And so during the summertime, which is when I went for the interview, which is when I usually go to visit family, the roads are fairly good because it's keeping the soil solid and you're able to go through to your locations fairly on time with a 35-seater vehicle. But the second it starts to rain, so the rainy season, which is when we were traveling, as soon as it starts to rain on those roads, you cannot take a 35-seater vehicle only, and I mean only pickup trucks can go through those roads because it is quite a dangerous adventure. Because we were traveling in the heart of the rainy season, the month of September, we had no choice but to take a pickup truck, which would take us down to school safely and hopefully on time. The type of pickup truck that we use, it's one that only has the driver and the passenger seat. And on the truck bed, you had some of our luggage, our trunks and boxes stacked and tied to the vehicle, secured very well. I don't know how these people did it, but they did it. They secured our luggages very well. And then for the rest of the space after that, that's where students were. And we were packed like sardines. I don't know how we survived. We were parked like sardines, and where I was on the truck bed, I was very close to our luggage, so I had something to hold on because it would be of help later down the road. But yeah, that's how we were placed on these pickup trucks.
Why? Why are we suffering? Hey, anyways.
So our luggages were secured to the vehicle. Students were placed onto the truck bed, whatever space was left. Multiple of these vehicles were present, so it's not like all of the students were crammed onto one particular pickup truck. There were multiple of them. So once everyone was loaded onto these trucks, it was time to go to school. And I would say for the first 20 minutes, it was all okay. I was like, we're just secure. Everyone's bouncing around. And then 20 minutes into it, it starts to rain. Oh. And that is when you saw the use of the pickup truck because, I don't understand how these drivers do it. Like, there are times when you're driving and then at some point you just drop, like the vehicle just drops and everybody's like scared and yelling and everything. And so you have your slope and then you have your road and then you have a very steep valley. And so as the driver is trying to get a hold of this vehicle, sometimes you go over the edge of that valley and you're just picking and you're praying to whatever God you have. And I'm telling you, students were terrified. I was terrified. Many people were terrified. It was horrendous. And a lot of the locations we had to step down because we were applying too much weight to the vehicle that the tire would just spin. It would just keep spinning. So we had to get down. We had to help push the vehicle. It was a very, very tasking drive. I don't know how we made it in one piece, but We did. We didn't fall off a cliff. And all of the students that came, you can just imagine. This was just us coming from Yaounde. Just a group of students. There were people coming from Boya, from Kumba, from Limbe, from the North region. People were coming from different locations to come to school, and everybody, hundreds of students, had to go through these roads to get to their locations. We got there around 7 p.m. They had students coming at 12 a.m. because of that road. And it was from that experience that my brain started to start thinking. I started to think to myself, like, we all see what is going on. We all see that these roads are not getting any better. I went to Seat of Wisdom for 5 good years. And during that time, I had the opportunity to go through these roads for a number of times. And nothing was getting any better. And whatever solution was implemented was a very, very short-term solution. And so I always wondered why. Because I grew up in the city. I grew up in Yaounde, the capital city. And around me were town roads. Everything was fairly okay. In my mind, we had the state-of-the-art roadways. And the second that I stepped out of that and I started to go through this experience of having to switch vehicles, get on top of a pickup truck, and have to pray for my life and pray for the driver and hope, you're hoping that you get to your destination okay. I asked myself, why? Just why? I try to figure out what I can do. You know, what can I do to better these roadways? It's not only this particular Dschang to Fontem road, because if this Dschang to Fontem road is like this, are there more locations like that? Are there more locations that have been untarred for the longest of times and have just degraded for this number of years? If I'm just going through one roadway, I'm very sure there are multiple that are very similar. I had been thinking about ways that I could hopefully make a difference and have someone's child not go through the kind of torments that I did. Because I don't think it should be a hopeful event when you travel. So I went to Seat of Wisdom for 5 good years. And in every year, I had the opportunity to travel the Dschang to Fontem roads at least 4 times a year. And during those periods of times, I always thought to myself, how can these roads get better? How can we make them better? What can I do? What career can I pursue for that? And when I was still in Cameroon, I was thinking about an engineering degree, pretty much because I loved the sound of it, the sound of being an engineer. It sounded so cool to me at the time. It was not a field that many people that I knew went into. And I was just like, it sounds cool. I want to do that. So when I got to the US, when I had the opportunity to come to the US and I saw the American roadway system, I was surprised and I was shocked as to how different it is. A lot of the roadways are paved, they are marked, they have signs, they have all these elements that help you stay safe on the roads. They've taken the worry of the condition of the roadway out of the driver's mind. And they've tried to make sure that the only thing that the driver should worry about is the condition of their vehicle and the condition of themselves, if they are okay to drive and if their vehicles are safe to be on the road. And for us in Cameroon, we have all these worries, ourselves, the car, and the road. And so I was very curious when I saw that. I was like, how did they do that? And so when I went into high school, I was still doing my sciencey thing, but I still had in the back of my mind, I wanted to do something related to either knowing, understanding how those roadways are constructed. But also at the same time, I was also interested in waste management. Another problem that I noticed back in Cameroon was waste management. There's a lot of waste in some particular locations, and it makes places to be dirty. When some solutions can be applied, I did not know about at the time, and I thought pursuing something in chemical engineering was the answer, so I can, help create systems that recycle these things so that we don't have to deal with them anymore. But yeah, those were the two things that I had in mind, and of course, I started to gravitate towards civil engineering, but that is where it stemmed. Essentially, the Dschang to Fontem road was the inspiration behind me going for a civil engineering degree. And we'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, that is my story. That's where it all started. I hope you somehow enjoyed the story, and I will see you next time. Hello and welcome. My name is Ndem, and I am a civil engineering in the capital city of Yaounde. Yaounde, okay, I was born and raised. What? I am, I am originally, I was born, okay, what? I'm originally where I spent my 10, my first 10 years. So the parents would approach bus. The drive from Fontem, it's about 2 to 3 hours. Okay.